You can increase your stamina and speed with one simple technique. Let's talk about it. So today I'm going to teach you a technique that has increased my speed and stamina, and it has allowed me to win a lot of tournaments and play Pump It Up at the very highest level. So it has been called the booty technique by some players because you're actually using your glutes to help you play better. So how does using your glutes help you play better? Well, actually, your glutes are really strong and they don't fatigue nearly as quickly as your quads and your calves do. And you're going to need your quads and your calves so that you can push off and move quickly back and forth across the pad and hit certain twisting patterns. But if you burn them out too quickly early in the song, you're not going to have the strength or the stamina to hit certain patterns. So if you start using your glutes during certain patterns, they're not going to fatigue as quickly, and it's going to allow you to have that energy in your quads and your calves to hit those more difficult patterns. So what do I mean by more difficult patterns? Well, they're going to be patterns where you actually have to get on your toes so you can push off from side to side to move quicker, or like twisting patterns that are very difficult. You need to get on your toes so you can really push off and be more athletic. If you're flat-footed, it's a lot harder to move from side to side and get those more athletic movements when you're trying to hit difficult patterns. So what happens is, especially with newer players, is they're playing up on their toes a lot during the song and moving a lot. And especially when you're hitting like twisting patterns or hitting arrows that are up on the front arrows, you're going to be engaging your calf, your quads, and then your tibialis muscle. And when those get tired and burn out, then you're not going to be able to hit those more difficult patterns further into the song. You feel your legs get real tight and they lock up and you just really can't move anymore. So how am I supposed to save energy? Well, it's by using your glute muscles. So how do I use my glute muscles? Well, when you're hitting more condensed patterns that don't require you to move back and forth across the pad quickly or do difficult twisting patterns, you can actually use your glutes. So in order to use your glutes, you actually need to figure out how to relax your quads and your calves so that you can really sink into your stance a little bit, and then you can feel your glutes engage. Now, a lot of times when you're hitting the back blue arrows, when you're doing drills, you can actually kind of feel your glutes engage a little more because you're hitting with the heel. When you're pressing through your heels or more towards the back or like mid part of your foot, you're going to be engaging your glutes a lot more. So you just have to figure out how to really relax your leg so that you can kind of sit down in and feel your glutes engage. So once you kind of feel your glutes engage, when you kind of sink down into your stance and you're kind of pressing through the midfoot or like kind of towards the heel on the back of your foot, well, you're kind of thinking, well, how do I hit these red arrows up here at the top without engaging my quads and my calves? Because when you're moving from front to back, you're going to end up getting on your toes and it engages your calf and your quads. And that's where you kind of start burning out. Well, what you have to do is you think about being flat-footed. So when you're pressing with a flat foot, you're not engaging your calf, and it helps you relax your quad a lot more. So when you're playing with a flat foot, you can engage your glutes a lot more. So you have to get used to playing flat-footed. So when you're trying to hit the front arrow, what you're actually doing is you're not pressing on the actual arrow. You're actually thinking about striking this metal section right here with your heel. So when you press, the front part of your foot naturally goes down and hits the arrow. So when you're hitting a pattern, your heel is hitting this blue arrow, and then you move forward, and now your heel is hitting the metal. So all you have to do is move back and forth. You're not actually bending and getting into your toes. You can use your glutes for hitting all of the arrows. So patterns that we're going to be looking for when using this technique, especially on singles, are going to be patterns that are straightforward, where you're not really turning to the side or doing difficult twisting patterns. If you're doing a pattern that's like really straightforward like this, you can actually stay flat-footed the entire time. You don't actually have to get up on your toes. You can just use that technique to stay flat-footed, and it's going to save you a ton of energy. On doubles is where this technique really shines, and you're going to see the biggest difference in your speed and stamina, because these middle 6 arrows are where you're going to use this technique mainly, because you can stay flat-footed and even kind of hit some of these patterns, especially on the more tight, more condensed patterns. You can stay flat-footed, and it's going to save you a ton of energy. Where you're going to have to use your quads and your calves is when you start getting more towards the edges and you have to move from one side to the other really quickly, you have to be more athletic, and you can't really do that when you're flat-footed. So you really have to get up on your toes so that you can push off to get from side to side. The biggest thing that you have to remember when you're trying to learn this technique is to just relax. Relax as much as you can. Relax your legs. Just really get them super loose so that you can just use your glutes only. Once you start tensing up and you're maybe hitting a faster pattern, your legs get real tight, you start engaging your quads, and then they burn out, and then you're tired by the end of the song, and then you can't hit the more difficult patterns or clear the harder charts. So I hope this video isn't too confusing for you. I know that this technique can be a lot more difficult to learn, and I do see that a lot of higher level players still aren't using this technique to its full advantage. It can be difficult to learn how to completely relax your leg and rely on your glutes and getting to play a little bit more flat-footed instead of being up on your toes. So that's all I have for you today. I hope that this video helps. It can be confusing and difficult to learn. If you do have questions, please ask me in the comments. I'll try to clarify anything that may have seemed to be confusing to you. But thank you for coming in and watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, I almost died there.